Hello everyone! Today we're going to study about the to be expressions in Korean, 이에요, 예요, and how to turn these sentences into questions. Look at this sentence. 저는 리사예요. 저는 means I, and Lisa is a noun, a name. This sentence explains that the subject I is Lisa. A similar sentence is 제 이름은 리사예요. Here, 제 is the polite form of my, and 이름 means name, so it means my name is Lisa. Next example, 저는 선생님이에요. Here, 선생님 means teacher, and the subject, 저, is being described. A similar one is 제 직업은 선생님이에요. My job is a teacher. Now, you might have noticed something. Sometimes we use 이에요 and sometimes 예요. Here's the rule. If the noun ends with a final consonant, use 이에요. If it ends no final consonant, use 예요. For example, 가족, 족 has a final consonant, 기억, so we use 이에요. 가족이에요. And then 송이, 이 has no final consonant, so we use 예요. 송이예요. What should come after 한국 사람, 이에요 or 예요? That's right. It's 한국 사람이에요. The word 사람 ends with 미음, so we use 이에요. Another example. What should come after 의사, 이에요 or 예요? That's right. It's 의사예요. 친구는 의사예요. The word 의사 has no final consonant, so we use 예요. Let's repeat these sentences together twice. 저는 한국 사람이에요. 저는 한국 사람이에요. 친구는 의사예요. 친구는 의사예요. Now let's learn about the subject markers 이 and 가. They are used after the subject similar to 은 or 는. For example, 아빠는 의사예요. And 아빠가 의사예요. 아빠는 아빠가 are the subject in both sentences. The particles 는 and 가 indicate the subject, and they are mostly used similarly. However, sometimes they are used with different meanings. Let's learn more about this over time, but for now, both are natural. Another example, 동생은 학생이에요, and 동생이 학생이에요. And both are okay too. Now you might have noticed that sometimes we use 이 and sometimes 가. Here's the rule. If the noun ends with a final consonant, use 이. And if it ends with no final consonant, use 가. 사람, 람 has a final consonant, so we use 이. 사람이. 언니, 니 has no final consonant, so we use 가. 언니 가. Now look at this sentence. 형 의사예요. Which particle should go in the blank? 은 or 는? And 이 or 가? That's right. The word 형 ends with the consonant 이응, so we should use 은 or 이. Let's read it together. 형이 의사예요. 형은 의사예요. Let's look at another sentence. 엄마 회사원이에요. Which particle should go in the blank? That's right. The word 엄마 ends with no final consonant. So it becomes 엄마가 회사원이에요 and 엄마는 회사원이에요. Let's read it together. 엄마가 회사원이에요. 엄마는 회사원이에요. There's an exception, the word 저. Even though 저 has no final consonant, we don't say 저가. We say 제가. So we can say 제가 선생님이에요. Let's read it together. 제가 선생님이에요. Now let's change these sentences into questions. Here's the sentence. 저는 한국 사람이에요. To make it a question, just raise the tone at the end. Remember? We can change 저는 to 당신은. So we can make it a question. 당신은 한국 사람이에요? In this question, you can answer with yes or no. So we can say, 네, 한국 사람이에요. Also in Korean, it's common to say, 네, 맞아요. It means, yes, that's right. Or, 아니요. 인도 사람이에요. Let's repeat these sentences together. 당신은 한국 사람이에요? 네, 한국 사람이에요. 네, 맞아요. 아니요, 인도 사람이에요. Now let's change this sentence to a question asking which country someone is from. In this case, 한국 사람 changes to 어느 나라 사람. 어느 나라 means which country. Now let's read it together. 당신은 어느 나라 사람이에요? And how can you answer this? You can say, 저는 중국 사람이에요. 저는 몽골 사람이에요. Moving on, let's look at this sentence. 제 이름은 리사예요. Let's change this sentence into a question. We can change it to 이름은 무엇이에요? 무엇 means what. But in real conversation, we usually shorten 무엇 to 뭐. So it becomes 이름은 뭐예요? When we ask someone's name, it actually sounds even more natural to say 이름이 뭐예요? Because 이 or 가 is used when introducing new information. Let's repeat these together. 이름이 무엇이에요? 이름이 뭐예요? Now let's look at the next sentence. 제 직업은 선생님이에요. We can also change this sentence into a question. It can be changed to 직업은 무엇이에요? or 직업은 뭐예요? As I mentioned before, we are introducing the topic of the job for the first time in this situation. So, 직업이 뭐예요 is much more natural. Let's read this sentence together. 직업이 무엇이에요? 직업이 뭐예요? Now let's read a short dialogue. 안녕하세요. 만나서 반가워요. 저는 리사예요. 이름이 뭐예요? 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 정국이에요. 리사 씨는 어느 나라 사람이에요? 저는 태국 사람이에요. 정국 씨는 어느 나라 사람이에요? 저는 한국 사람이에요. 리사 씨는 직업이 뭐예요? 저는 가수예요. 저도 가수예요. In the sentence, 정국 씨는 어느 나라 사람이에요? 어느 나라 사람 has already been mentioned in conversation. We can omit it to just ask, 정국 씨는요? Now let's read the full conversation while looking at the pronunciation in blue. 안녕하세요. 만나서 반가워요. 저는 리사예요. 이름이 뭐예요? 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 정국이에요. 리사 씨는 어느 나라 사람이에요? 저는 태국 사람이에요. 정국 씨는요? 저는 한국 사람이에요. 리사 씨는 직업이 뭐예요? 저는 가수예요. 저도 가수예요. You did a great job today. See you again next time. Bye.